Hey there sailors, and welcome back to another day in Eternum. Looks like the video I was working on is being put on hold because today we had a developer blog released just out of the blue that solely ties to the item system of New World. This is part of some long-awaited information for New World, and they're planning on releasing another one after this that focuses just on the crafting. But before that, let's go ahead and dive right into this one. It starts off by letting us know that throughout our adventures in New World, we will be able to get our hands on a wide variety of items. These items will include things like food, drinks, potions, weapon coatings, and tinctures, along with armor and weapons. We'll also be able to find special crafting resources while slaying creatures or searching through abandoned settlements, temples, and corrupted camps. Which does mean that even as a crafter, it might be in your best interest to level your character while you progress crafting to avoid any obstacles in your way. The first topic they go over in this blog is related to food and drinks. We're now learning that these play a very important role in our ability to take on the dangers of the island. In other games, it's usually a good idea to make use of food buffs if the system allows. This can be useful for taking on raid content, PvP content, and so much more. And it looks like New World might be taking the same route. In this game, as they describe, food and drink can provide a slow health regeneration over an extended period of time. If we want to get the most out of the buffs we can get, it'll be best to cook the food before we eat it. But in case of emergencies, raw food can also be used to give us a lesser version of this buff as well. As shown in this picture, there's a wide variety of cooked food and brewed drinks we'll have access to, and I believe there's many more than shown here. The food that provides us with recovery buffs are constant, whether we are in or out of combat, which is going to be very nice. Prepared foods provide us with additional points of constitution, which is used as the attribute for health. And on the other side of that, there are other foods that could enhance our defense against certain enemies, enhance our stamina recovery, which we will use to block, or even temporarily increase a crafting skill. In the picture, we can see an example of this. If you look at the herb roasted squash on the left, it appears to give us a bonus to the crafting skill known as engineering. In the previous alpha, this crafting skill was used to procure things like muskets and powder kegs. And all the way to the right, you've got the salt-crusted fish with glazed potatoes, which sounds very delicious by the way. This one gives us a defense buff against lost type enemies, which we know as the undead ghouls of the world. I really hope that the appearance of this food confirms that fishing is either in the game or planned for a later date, but for right now we'll just have to cross our fingers and pray. Moving on though, the next section dives into the potions and tinctures. The difference between them is that the potions provide a general magic effect that lasts for several minutes. We might decide to drink one to increase our carry weight or enhance our defense against a particular damage type, such as lightning or fire from what we can see from this picture, and tinctures on the other hand provide an instant boost to our stats. Health-based ones will heal us right away, and for all you mages out there, mana tinctures will boost up your battle resource to keep you in the fight. This example also tells us that there will be instances where we will have debuffs on our characters or possibly be able to place them in PvP. Something like this could be very useful for surviving in the open world and territory wars, so be sure to make a mental note of these. But the one that has me interested the most is that void-based defense booster. I'm not sure if that suggests that we might be coming across void-based creatures in the future, or if that simply has to do with the darkness-infused weapons we've seen, but I can't wait to find out either way. After that, we've got ourselves something I'm sure you min-maxers are going to love, and that's the weapon coatings. These bad boys are the key to gaining an advantage in combat against various creatures across Eternum. We can craft these at our camps once we reach the required levels, which were our mobile campfires in the previous alpha. And we can either craft or loot these to get a damage bonus against different enemies such as the corrupted, wraiths, the beasts, or even the angry earth. Which is a good thing to know because we just finished talking about the Spriggan Arena not too long ago, and the big man himself just so happens to be a part of that faction. These are probably going to be extremely useful for fighting the invasions too, so I would plan on keeping a decent stockpile if I were you. And then we arrive at the piece de resistance, the equipment. While exploring and fighting creatures, we will be able to find and acquire equipment items that can be used right away, provided that we are a high enough level to wield it, that is. Each equipment item has a few features in common that will determine how powerful the item is. And the first, as we can see here, is its gear score. So right now, we already know that there will be a degree of RNG in the game's progression. The main question is how much. Now we're off to a good start because we already have multiple ways of obtaining this stuff, including crafting, possibly corrupted breaches, and most likely invasions. But of course, no one wants to beat their head against a wall for months on end just to try to increase their equipment efficiency by 5%. So we'll have to see how this one works. I think if we're able to get top tier gear through crafting and activities like fighting field bosses or arenas like they mentioned before, maybe even quest lines, then I think we'll be in a good spot. I just wouldn't want to see us having to spend 2 weeks at a grind spot, just to be left with nothing at the end. Now, items with a higher gear score are more powerful. The higher the gear score is, the more damage the weapon will deal alongside more protective the armor. As we can see in this example, this is also determined by the item's perks. We've heard about these a little bit before, but now we get a good look at what kind we can expect. The perks are pulled from a selection of them, and items with higher gear score will have a chance of getting more perks or more powerful versions of said perks. So no perks on the item means it's common, at least 1 perk is uncommon, 2 perks is rare, and 3 perks is epic. Which, by the way, this is the first time we're seeing that epic grade equipment, and I'm already a huge fan of that purple. We're going to see perks like Ignited, which does give fire damage. I think we've seen that one before, and even durability based ones, which does confirm that sort of system in the game. And also ones that give us things like damage bonuses versus targets with active debuffs or a certain type like Angry Earth. This means we might potentially be able to get pretty creative with our weapon loadouts in addition to how we build our skill trees. If you're someone that focuses on applying debuffs, like let's say the spears are really good at applying bleed for example, that type of perk right there would be a Hail Mary for you. Also, we get a look at gem slots. Occasionally items can drop with an empty one that we can fill to increase our attributes. These gems have to be cut from an experienced jewel crafter before they can be socketed though, so that should promote some synergy amongst the crafters. We also can't remove them, but it looks like they'll be pretty useful considering we can get ones that can increase 2 different stats instead of 1. Plus, if you're planning to mid-max, you're going to need these. It's said that armor can also get different traits, which does sound really good. And they expand on this information by going over the armor equipment weights. Looks like the armor we wear will put us in specific categories. If we're wearing light armor, that drops us in the light category, which gives us a fast movement state. Medium armor will put us squarely in the normal state, and heavy will put us in the heavy state. The difference between these is the lighter we are, the more mobility we'll have, and it finally makes sense why we see some people in previous footage dodging, and then we see others simply strafing. You can also get perks that affect the weight, so maybe if you wanted to be a semi-mobile tank, you could accomplish that. One thing I'd love to see is perks or a passive buff on medium and light armor that gives you bonuses towards magic or using ranged weapons. That way it can promote some armor diversity across the board, and you don't just see everyone rocking heavy armor or vice versa. And for the final 2 topics, we get to dive both into the Legendaries and the Trinkets plus bags. Kicking this off with the Legendaries. During our adventures, we'll come across a variety of named and legendary items. Named and legendaries have specific perks and fixed gear scores. I also find it interesting that they distinguish between named and legendaries, because we have had mention of field bosses and maybe named ones could come from them, or even invasions and breaches. Some of these, as they describe, might even have pre-socketed gems. We already know that these can come from the arena, but it also says we get these by engaging with the most challenging foes this island has to offer. Let's cross our fingers for some good boss fights. This one in particular looks sick too. We already know what the abyssal trait looks like, and no matter the weapon, I want it. Plus that keen trait looks mighty fine with a 25% base damage buff, plus a gem slot. That is nuts. Trinkets and bags are also going to be providing buffs to our core attributes, which by the way, so far we have strength, constitution, dexterity, and intelligence that we know of so far. The trinkets that seem to be made by jewel crafters have their own subset of perks that offer benefits just unique to trinkets alone. So that means the ones that we get on weapons and armor might be vastly different from the jewelry. The bags themselves can also increase carry weight, which means that our characters will not have an endless storage space on our person. We'll have to make use of these bags and possibly storage buildings inside the settlement, especially the crafters. Oh, and it looks like these have different level requirements as well. Looks like tier 2 is level 1, tier 3 is level 20, tier 4 is level 35, and tier 5 is 50, which so far does seem to match up with the footage we've seen. This means if you're a crafter, it honestly might be a better idea to wait until you're a decent level before getting too deep into your profession. If the gathering tools still work anything like this, then they will have level requirements on them too, and working with the tier 5 pickaxe might end up being a lot better than trying to fumble with the tier 2 or 3. Also, some of these jewelry perks look really good. Critical strike damage on those earrings, life leech on hit. This is going to be a competitive player's wet dream right here. I hope that's balanced. The blog finishes off by telling us we'll find a mixture of raw and refined resources while exploring. The bulk of them are found naturally, like wood from a tree or ore from a vein, and some of them can be obtained in various supply crates or coffers throughout the island. that does make me wonder if we might also be able to get them from farming mobs. I think that would be pretty useful for people trying to make money while grinding. The containers we searched through might also yield rare and powerful crafting resources, which they are going to go over in an upcoming article dedicated to just crafting. So far, I'm really interested to see where this goes. I honestly think the more perks we get access to, the better. A system like this could really give us the chance to make our characters and their build completely unique. Of course, we know early on in games, metas pop up all the time, but maybe we'll be able to play around with these as they become available to come up with some stuff never seen before. I'll leave the next part up to you guys though. What do you think so far about this item system? Since they're always going to be working on the combat and new weapon additions, what kind of things would you like to build in the future? I'm willing to bet at least one of you has already thought about a life leech or necromancer build. I'm already thinking of a great axe leech one myself. Let us all know in the comments below. Thanks very much again for checking out the video, and as always, have a wonderful night or day. Stay safe.